Forever. Dog.
Oh, yes. Yes. I hope you enjoyed your wicked weekend, baby. Wicked weekend. I know I enjoyed mine. Let's see. Bright and early Friday morning, and this is, of course, the weekend that Wicked for Good, the second part of the Wicked film adaptation, came out. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It was you couldn't get away from it. You couldn't escape it. And who would want to escape it? What a fun weekend. I got up bright and early Friday morning. I slapped on some Wicked brand deodorant because I knew I'd be sweating with anticipation all day long until my screening. For breakfast, I had what I call the Wicked Special, which is a Elphaba cold brew from Starbucks and a pack of Wicked mystery color mac and cheese, the breakfast of champions. I got pink this time on my mac and cheese, which is fun because it looks like candy and tastes like cheese. I did spill it everywhere. I spilled it all over myself. I eat like an animal when I'm excited, and I was very excited on Friday. So the cold brew, the pink mac and cheese, all over me, all over the kitchen floor. But that was not a problem. That was not a problem at all because I had also purchased some Gain limited edition Wicked laundry detergent. And I, of course, also had my Wicked branded Swiffer. So that took care of the mess. Both on my clothes and on the floor. And then, not to mention, on top of that, I, of course, had my Wicked branded Febreze. I went with the Wonderfulest Woods scent. And that came in handy during the 90-minute trip to the toilet that followed my breakfast, that followed the Wicked Special. And when you're eating the Wicked Special, having the Wicked Special, you do want to reserve at least 90 minutes for the bathroom afterwards. Then it was back to Starbucks. This time I got the Glinda's Pink Potion, the other Wicked branded Starbucks drink. And this time I was not going to make the same mistake twice. I drank it with a poncho on because I did not have time for another wash cycle. Then I stopped by the Hot Topic right there on City Walk, the big Hot Topic, to browse some Wicked accessories. I ended up going with a very cool, very witchy little locket necklace. I was feeling very teenage goth. And luckily, I also had a canister of the Wicked salted caramel flavored whipped cream with me in my bag. So I did a couple of whippets right there in the back of Hot Topic. Passed out. And then I didn't come to. I don't know how much longer it was. I don't know how long I was passed out, but I came to after a display pyramid of Elphaba and Galindo Funko Pops tipped over and came crashing down on my head. I looked at my phone. My screening was starting in a mere 10 minutes. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Get yourself together, you fool. You fool. So I quick ran back to Starbucks for another Elphaba cold brew. Did spill this one on myself, but at this point I had no time to worry about that. Got into City Walk AMC, Wicked Man. I am the Wicked Man at this point. Got a Wicked popcorn bucket. Got a limited edition Wicked flavors from the Coca-Cola Freestyle machine. I just combined them all together into one. And then got in my seat right before the Nicole Kidman AMC promo started. Perfect timing. And the length of the Nicole Kidman AMC promo, not a long promo, but just enough time to allow me a brief moment to center myself, to prepare myself for the movie to come. Because I was thinking in that moment, just covered in 8 layers of Wicked branded merchandising and food and household cleaning supplies, I thought to myself, surely if Universal spent a record $350 million on the Wicked marketing budget, surely if Universal partnered with over 400 corporate brands on product tie-ins, surely this must be one hell of a movie. Stay tuned to find out. It's Wicked Week on movies, baby. Roll that theme song!
The backbone of this country is the independent film critic. The power of movies must be protected. The best thing about movies is the feeling they give. It's a feeling I want to feel every day. Movies, baby! Movies, baby! Movies, baby! Movies, baby!
I love it, Brett.
Welcome to Movies, baby. I'm Brett Boehm, a.k.a. the Georgia Movie Dog. Go Dogs, and I'm coming to you live from the San Fernando Valley. This weekend, I tell you what, I was watching movies like that Dunkin' Donuts guy makes donuts. I just woke up in the morning and said, guys, gotta see the movies. Gotta see the movies. I saw the aforementioned Wicked for Good. I also saw Sentimental Value and Sirāt and Nouvelle Vague and Train Dreams. I was seeing movies this weekend. You couldn't stop me from seeing movies. And I can't wait to talk to you about them. But first, you know what we do. Show me the money. And by money, I of course mean the weekend box office returns. Well, will you look at that? Those Starbucks signature drinks really paid off. They paid off big time. Wicked for Good had a monster week at the box office. 150 million domestic. That is the second biggest opening of the year after the Minecraft movie. It also added 76 million internationally for a grand total worldwide opening weekend of $226 million. Holy shit. That's the biggest worldwide opening for an American movie this year. It's also, not surprisingly, the biggest opening ever for a movie based on a Broadway show. And wouldn't you know it, 71% of ticket buyers opening weekend were women. Once again proving, like the Barbie movie, like the first Wicked movie, that movies marketed to women can and do crush at the box office. It seems silly now, but there was this, I don't know, what's that ominous phrase? Best practice. There was that sort of best practice thinking for so long that movies marketed primarily to women could not succeed at the box office. I don't know where that came from, why we thought that. It's obviously not true. As has been proven recently by Wicked, Barbie movie. All the Colleen Hoover movies. Regretting You did so well. It Ends With Us did so well. I saw they got another Colleen Hoover movie coming down the pike. Micah Monroe, I don't know, kills her boyfriend or her husband in a car crash, and they blame her. And then she's got to make good and make love and be a parent. Movies for Women crush is the headline. What a massive success for Universal this Wicked adaptation has been. And no guarantee. We all remember what happened to Cats. This could have been Cats. This was not a slam dunk. This could have been Cats. But it wasn't. I believe it actually made more money in previews on Thursday than Cats did for its entire run. Maybe it was Thursday and Friday, but it was something like that, something crazy like that. So congrats to Universal, John Chu, the entire Wicked team. Congrats on all your money. But what about the movie itself? What about Wicked for Good, the movie? Well, where do I begin? Number one, I'm not gonna blame Wicked for slapping their name on every single consumer product on the face of the earth, short of Rogaine and AR-15s. I'm not blaming them for that. Every movie, get in line then behind Star Wars and everything else. I'm not going to blame the movie because it merchandised itself. It cross-product itself. And I'm not going to blame Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo for manufacturing more asinine, quote-unquote, viral moments in a month than the Rizzler has manufactured in his entire life. Which, to be fair, his entire life only amounts to 9 years. The Rizzler is 9 years old, by the way. Our culture is sick to its core. But the point is, I'm not going to blame Wicked for Good for playing the game of movie marketing in the year 2025 better than anyone else is playing it. The branded tie-ins, the viral press tour, all that bullshit. This is the battleground of movie marketing in this era. In this era when the internet has swallowed our culture and everything must bow in subservience to it. I'm not going to blame Wicked for Good for winning not only the battle, but the war of movie marketing in 2025. This is why they made $226 million opening weekend. The movie industry needs all the money it can get right now. All the money you can get. And I'm sure as hell glad it went to Universal and not, Paramount. Magamount. I love when movies crush at the box office. I love it. What I do blame Wicked for Good for is doing all of that. All of that marketing, all of that attention hogging. Doing all of that and then putting up such a piece of absolute slop on the screen for 2 hours and 17 minutes. Wicked for Good is one of the worst movies I've seen this year. Pure slop, all capital letters. And I enjoyed the first Wicked movie. It wasn't a great movie, but it was fun. It hung together. It got from the start to the finish in one piece. It nailed the big numbers, more or less. I liked the first Wicked movie. I had fun. So what the hell happened with Wicked for Good? Where did it go wrong? First of all, let's cover the basics. This movie, like the first one, was directed by John M. Chu. It was written by Winnie Holtzman and Dana Fox. It is, of course, the sequel to 2024's Wicked, and it adapts the second act of the 2003 stage musical by Stephen Schwartz and Winnie Holtzman, the co-writer of the movie, which itself was loosely based on Gregory Maguire's 1995 novel, which itself is a reimagining of L. Frank Baum's 1900 novel, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and its 1939 film adaptation. Wicked for Good stars all the people that Wicked, the first one, starred. Ariana Grande, Cynthia Erivo, Jonathan Bailey, sexiest man in the world, Marissa Baudet, Ethan Slater, Bowen Yang, Michelle Yeoh, and Jeff Goldblum. They're all back. This movie's set in the land of Oz before and during the events of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, exploring the relationship between Elphaba and Glinda as they embrace their new identities as the Wicked Witch of the West and Glinda the Good, respectively. Now, the big problem with Wicked for Good, and it's the reason I brought up all the marketing and the brand tie-ins. Again, I'm not trying to blame Wicked for Good for that. Everybody's playing the game. They just played it better than anybody else. But the big problem is that the movie itself is directed like an afterthought. I've honestly never seen a movie of this size and scope and budget and expectations that felt less of a need to earn its reputation, to earn its place at the center of popular culture for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long this lasts, however long the tail is for Wicked for Good. The various dramatic beats of the movie, the love triangle between Elphaba, Glinda, and Fiyero, the jealousy of Madame Morable, played by Michelle Yeoh, or Madame Marable? I can't remember how it's pronounced. The cynicism of the wizard, played by Jeff Goldblum. All of these major dramatic beats, all of which have a lot of potential for dramatic tension, for compelling interest, for cinema. All of these beats are sped through so carelessly, so inarticulately, that the movie never acquires a dramatic engine. It's a movie that is ultimately only accessible through its fandom. It's only good if you've already convinced yourself that it can't be bad. But if you're sitting there, and there were a lot of people in my screening who had convinced themselves of that. There was a lot of self-fulfilling prophecies in the reactions to this movie opening weekend. But if you're just sitting there as someone who goes to a lot of movies and is just sitting in front of the latest movie and is approaching it as a movie and is watching it, not a single thing about it draws you in. There's not a single dramatic beat in the movie that made me go, huh? Or, oh, or oh no, or ha ha ha. Nothing. Because everything, again, is treated as an afterthought. This movie is sloppy, shoddy, and perhaps strangely enough, or most strange of all, is poorly acted. That was what shocked me most of all. The performances are bad. And again, noticeably worse than the first Wicked movie. And it's weird to say because you have so many talented performers in this movie. Cynthia Erivo, like, what is happening? I know you're better than this. But oh boy, are the line reads broad and generic and barely felt. Michelle Yeoh, either phoning it in or fighting a losing battle against the stiff, uninteresting material that they force her to act. I'm not sure which one. Probably a combination of both. Jeff Goldblum. The problem in this movie with Jeff Goldblum is that it's a misunderstanding about Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum is not just a quirk machine that you can turn on and let run and let the magic happen. Jeff Goldblum needs context and shape for his quirk to work effectively. Think about him in The Fly. Think about him in Jurassic Park. There is a context for his quirk to plug into in a way that creates a compelling story. But in Wicked for Good, there's a number called Wonderful that Goldblum does as the wizard that is so bogged down by props and a lot of jazz hands sort of stuff and so many Goldblum gags that it suffocates you with its meaninglessness. There's this shot where Goldblum, and this is kind of the movie in a nutshell. There's this shot where Goldblum is doing some like hands around the face action. And it's sort of Madonna voguing, it's sort of like jazz hands. It's also dips into like the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil monkeys. And I know there's monkeys in this movie, so maybe that was intentional. But the execution of it all is so careless and muddled, so like rehearsal level, so desperately in need of a second, a third, a fourth take, that it just communicates nothing. It's just the concept of Goldblum quirk without any context for making it meaningful or interesting. There's another number where Cynthia Erivo is just sitting in a forest surrounded by CGI animals singing to them. And even in the ninth circle of Wicked fandom that was a Friday screening of Wicked for Good, even surrounded by the diehards, the people that did actually buy all of those products that I listed before, even in that kind of an environment, I felt the air go out of the room a little bit when Cynthia Erivo was singing to all the CGI animals. Even that room couldn't really muster the enthusiasm to pretend that was good. And then the things that they do ascribe sort of dramatic importance to or build a moment out of is so strange. There's a scene where Bach transforms, and I know you all are obsessed with the character of Bach from Wicked for Good. This is, of course, played by Ethan Slater, Broadway actor, musical theater actor, who, I believe if I have my facts correct, left his wife to become Ariana Grande's personal assistant boyfriend. Ethan Slater is Bach. And just to be completely honest, this should have been a sort of happy to be here casting. I'm Ethan Slater, and I am just happy to be here. But man, does Bach get a big old scene when he transforms into the Tin Man. And boy, oh boy, does it not even remotely pack a punch. It may be my favorite part of the movie because it's very funny, but it is not accomplishing what it's intending to accomplish. At the end, you can hear it in the trailer. Bach goes, "What have you done to me?" As he looks down at his Tin Man hands, and he has his little Tin Man hat on. It's a good question. What have you done to Bach? Why? Bach was a munchkin who was sort of a traitor to his people. He sort of aligns himself with his oppressor. Because the munchkins are getting sort of oppressed. They're not allowed to travel. And it's implied that that's because the mayor of the town is in love with Bach and wants Bach to stay in the town, and so that's why they do the travel ban. Also, by the way, there's a lot of oppression and bigotry, and there's travel bans, and there's secret prisons full of caged entities in them. They're animals, but animals in this movie are very wise and human-like. There's a lot of the flotsam and jetsam of what would be a topical movie. And yet I beg you to not read this movie topically. It is too silly, too broad, too undercooked to be any kind of statement on our times. Please no. Please let's not go there. I felt the same way about The Running Man. Satire and topicality are not just boxes to be checked. That's something you have to artistically engage with. You can't just check the box. Anyway, Bach turns into the Tin Man and goes, "What have you done to me?" Has a fun little moment like from The Shining. He like chops his way through a door. And Bach, I have the same question. I don't know what they've done to you or why, but now you're the Tin Man. I guess somebody had to be the Tin Man. The way they integrate Dorothy and the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, and the Scarecrow, once again, pure slop, completely botched. And I know they're doing a little Rosencrantz and Guildenstern thing, with Hamlet when Hamlet sort of just passes through, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. I know it's not supposed to be dwelled on. But all I can say is that it's executed so carelessly. It doesn't even have the charm of like an Easter egg. It's just sort of another meaningless beat in this meaningless movie. And Ariana Grande is not a bad actor. She's a very specific type of actor. I think she's someone who comes from Disney Channel, Nickelodeon world, and yet is not doing like a Zendaya, is not trying to sort of outgrow that world, move into quote-unquote serious acting or whatever, however you want to phrase that. She's someone who is very comfortable in that style of acting, in the sort of musical theater style of acting, and that's great. I love that. There's so much potential for pure cinema in that kind of performance style. In the in that paint by numbers performance style. Do you want the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, or the 5? I have 5 faces. They all express a very specific emotion. You just tell me what number comes next. And I'm not making fun of that. That's what the entire golden age of Hollywood was based on. I have no problem with that. The problem is that the character that she is performing, this character's emotional crises are so uninteresting that all the extreme emoting she does to express sadness or guilt or love, all the extreme emoting feels artificial because the character itself is so artificial. And maybe you could argue that's a problem with the source material. I don't know for sure, but it certainly carries over into the movie. Never for a second do I even remotely root for Glinda. Never for a second do I don't know, want her to be happy or care if she is. And I get what they're doing. They are trying to do the hidden dimensions of the perfect princess. And there are plenty of movies that have done that successfully. This is just not one of them. I'm giving Wicked for Good 1 star. And that's only because a lot of very talented production designers and costume designers and chorus members put their whole ass into this thing. But shame on Universal for shoving this thing down our throats by any means necessary and just hoping that we wouldn't notice that they forgot to make a movie. Congrats on setting the world record for marketing budget and brand tie-ins. I'm giving this movie 1 star, and that's generous. But it wasn't all bad at the movies this weekend. In fact, quite the contrary. It was pretty fucking great. I want to talk about 4 other movies I saw this weekend, and I'm going to rank them. I'm going to go from my least favorite to my most favorite. But least favorite is relative, because these 4 movies are all worth seeing, and they're all worth seeing at your earliest convenience. Starting with Sentimental Value, directed by Joachim Trier, and co-written by Trier and his writing partner Eskil Vogt. And congrats, I want to say a big shout out to Trier for maintaining that co-writer credit throughout his movies. Unlike Quentin Tarantino, who famously betrayed his friend Roger Avery by not giving him a co-writer credit on Pulp Fiction, even though it was Avery's script to begin with, and a lot of Avery's ideas and dialogue remained in the final product. But Quentin said, "I'm sorry, Roger. This is not how Quentin Tarantino sounds. But I am Quentin Tarantino, and I'm telling you that you're not getting a co-writing credit because it has to say written and directed by Quentin Tarantino. It can't say directed by and then written by 2 people. I need that written and directed by, so you're going to have to take one for the team, Roger. I'll give you a story credit." This is Joachim Trier's follow-up to 2021's excellent movie, Worst Person in the World. And like that movie, this one also stars Renata Rensve. We also have Stellan Skarsgård here, Inga Ibsdatter, Lilius, and Elle Fanning showing up, representing the USA. This movie follows a fractured relationship between an acclaimed director, Stellan Skarsgård, and his 2 estranged daughters, Renata Rensve and Inga Ibsdatter Lilius. And that relationship becomes even more complicated when this guy decides to make a personal film about their fractured family history. Sentimental Value was the runner-up at Cannes this year. It's an Oscar frontrunner in multiple categories. And there is a lot to like about Sentimental Value. The performances are outstanding. Outstanding. Particularly the central family, the 2 daughters and the father. Renata Rensve, already one of the great actors of her generation, solely on Worst Person in the World and Sentimental Value. She has the instrument, baby. Holy shit, is that face and those eyes and those eyebrows putting in work. Precise, nuanced emotions being expressed. She's a stage actor primarily in this movie. She's one of those popular stage actors in Norway. And I would kill to see any of these plays that she's in the movie. We just get little snippets. It's really, really well executed the way that Trier does it. You get a lot of backstage stuff. There's this incredible kind of opening sequence where she is refusing to go out on stage. Refusing. But you also get the sense from the stagehands and so forth and the director that this might be sort of ritualistic. That if they just stick with it and sort of play the game, she'll eventually go out on stage. And these background scenes are amazing, these backstage scenes. And then she'll eventually go out on stage and you'll get like 5 powerful seconds of this incredible experimental version of the seagull or whatever they're doing. So Renata Rensve has to play a lot of different levels in this movie. It's always tricky to be an actor playing an actor doing a play within the movie or a movie within the movie. But she does such a good job of earning every one of those levels and making each one of those levels interesting. Stellan Skarsgård is excellent as a sort of largely unrepentant asshole dad. A dad who sort of, I think, does feel guilt, but is also chronically easy on himself because of his artistic genius, and he thinks it's to some degree justified the way he treats people. But watching Stellan Skarsgård work in that role is amazing. He's amazing. And then Inga Ibsdottir Lilius is fantastic as the one member of the family that didn't go into the arts, but is very invested in the history of the family. And in some of the sort of dark, tragic chapters of history that the earlier family members were a victim of. She's fantastic. She's amazing. I guess you would call her the sensible one of the three, but that's such a insufficient description of her performance. She's amazing. This movie is smart, it's funny, it has a lot of sharp psychological insight, particularly about family relationships. I will say, though, I was ever so slightly underwhelmed by this movie as a whole. And that's partly because I had huge expectations. I loved Worst Person in the World. This movie is just getting rave reviews everywhere it goes. It just doesn't quite have the edge of Worst Person in the World, and it doesn't pay off with the big gut punch that it seems to be promising throughout. It also treads water a little bit too much. I feel like I was learning the same things about the characters over and over. It's not a movie that ever really takes you off guard, even though it feels like a movie that would benefit from taking you off guard. Having a few more surprises in store. And for me, this is a movie that, it needed all of that. It needed a few more surprises or twists, a big gut punch or two, a satisfying payoff. It really needed all that because it's a movie about successful actors and directors who live in a gorgeous house and live interesting lives, but are so sad all the time and so miserable and have so many problems. And so there's a little bit, at least for me as an audience member, there's a little bit of a hill you have to climb with a movie like that. To get me like really deeply on the edge of my seat by the end of the movie, invested in those kinds of characters, and it's very possible. That's the great thing about the movies. I have been fully invested in the lives of whiny, narcissistic assholes before. And not that these people don't have real problems, but they also have very nice lives and are very successful and live in a gorgeous house that was passed down to them that they didn't even have to pay for. And so there's the slightest little hill to climb with a movie like that to get me really invested in them. Because this movie's not saying that these are bad people. This is not a satire. It's not a satire. I kept wondering if it should be a little bit more of a satire, a little bit more edge. Not quite as kind of understanding of its, forgiving of its characters. But that's not what this movie is. And as a result, it has a little bit of a hill to climb to get me really invested in it, and it didn't quite fully climb that hill. And so there were a few too many moments where I found myself sort of rolling my eyes and saying, "Oh, get over yourself. Get over yourself." But overall, I'm just saying that it didn't clear the very high bar I had for it. This is still a very good movie, obviously worth seeing. And this is just my opinion. You might watch it and say, "What the fuck are you talking about, you Philistine?" Never review a movie again. You Jason Statham-loving cretin. But I gave it 3.5 stars. I thought it was really good, but not quite great. Next up, Nouvelle Vague, starring... we're going into starring. What about directed by? Let's start there. This movie's directed by Richard Linklater. Love Richard Linklater, who already gave us Blue Moon a couple weeks ago. This year we got a two-hitter from Richard Linklater, Blue Moon and Nouvelle Vague. This movie's written by Holly Ghent and Vincent Palmo. It is about the French New Wave, and specifically it's about the making of the movie A Bout de Souffle, otherwise known as Breathless, the English, not exactly translation, but adaptation of that movie, which I think translates more closely to Out of Breath. Or like the final breath is the implication. I used to know these things. But it's a movie about a very exciting period in film history, one of the most exciting periods in film history, the French New Wave. And it stars Guillaume Marbeck as Jean-Luc Godard, Zoe Deutsch as Jean Seberg, and Aubrey Douyan as Jean-Paul Belmondo. And if I have mispronounced any words today, particularly all these French words, I apologize. I am a cretin, but I'm a cretin who tries to get better every day. And I love learning. I should love research a little bit more, and I should have looked up these pronunciations, but I didn't look all of them up. And so if I've mispronounced anything, I apologize. The film is Linklater's first project that's shot entirely in French, and it was shot in black and white in 4:3 aspect ratio. I love that. It looks great. I was not sure what I was going to get with this. You know, you hear biopic about the making of Breathless, and you're like, all right, okay. Why wouldn't I could just go watch Breathless or read a book about it. And particularly because this year has been such a dud for, what do we call them? Sort of craft biopics, DIY biopics. I'm thinking of Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. I'm thinking of Pavements, which we haven't really talked about on this show yet, but which I thought was kind of a disaster. So there's Pavements, there's Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. So coming into Nouvelle Vague, I was a little bit like, look, I love Richard Linklater, but oh boy, what is this going to be? What is this going to be? Turns out it was great. I really, really enjoyed this movie. I had a blast. This movie is like a battery charger for worn out cinephiles. If you're a cinephile who's just a little worn out and a little like, if you're someone who lives off of the feeling of pure cinema and you're feeling a little exhausted, plug yourself into Nouvelle Vague and get recharged, baby. Rediscover why you love the movies. This is how you do magic of the movies. You don't hit us over the head with sentimental montages or Nicole Kidman saying some bullshit that AI wrote for her in an empty AMC theater. It's this. It's the scrappiness of making a movie like Breathless. It's the unlikeliness of it all. Of a movie like this becoming a masterpiece. That's the magic of the movies, baby. That is the magic of the movies. The casting in this movie was unbelievable. This is honestly one of the most expertly casted movies I've ever seen. The guy who plays Godard was so locked in. So locked in. He had Godard's sort of like weird, nervous little energy, but also sort of the bravado of Godard as well. And I love to see a guy wearing glasses inside. There's these great scenes where Godard's like watching movies in movie theaters. He's watching 400 Blows, or he's watching some shitty movie that his producer made. And you see the reflection of the movie in his glasses. And it's like it should be on the cover of a textbook about movies. It's such a stunning image, watching Godard watch movies and seeing the reflection in his glasses. Seberg and Belmondo are perfectly cast. They look incredible. This is one of those movies where it's like because the casting is so good and the directing is so good and Linklater really nails the vibe of the French New Wave so well. It's one of those rare biopics where you kind of trick yourself into thinking, I think this is what it was actually like. I feel like I'm watching a documentary. I feel like I'm watching a behind the scenes documentary of the making of Breathless. And a large part of that is also because Linklater understands the movie Breathless so well. He understands what makes it so significant, which is that it is both an intentional masterpiece and an accidental masterpiece, like a lot of the movies of the French New Wave. Godard just declared that he was going to make an important film, but then insisted on not really preparing ahead of time as to how he was going to go about making this important film. He had such a belief and a conviction that his cinematic ideology that he had developed over years of watching so many movies and developing this sort of radical approach to filmmaking entirely in his head and in his essays for Cahiers de Cinema and the occasional little short that he got to make. But it was an ideology that existed almost entirely in his head, but it was so clearly defined. The jump cuts, not caring about continuity, filming in the street without permits, not syncing sound. Just we'll worry about the dialogue, we'll dub it later. Not writing a script, barely writing out scenes, writing them the morning of in a cafe and then going around the corner and shooting them in an apartment, which they hadn't really scouted out ahead of time, just the apartment of a friend. Non-professional lighting. His DP was a war videographer who had shot footage on the battlefield. And that was perfect for Godard. That's exactly what he wanted. Lean, mean, no pretentiousness. But all of this, you see Breathless and you think something, that old adage, something this seemingly spontaneous must have been meticulously rehearsed, but not in the case of Breathless. What you're seeing is what you get. And Linklater understands that so well, that what's great about Breathless is that it is both intentional and accidental. And that is really the theme of the movie, of how something can be both at once. And Linklater understands the world of DIY filmmaking, low-budget filmmaking so well that he depicts it so well in this movie, because he doesn't push it to extremes. Seberg will get frustrated and get pissed off, but then just as quickly we'll be having fun again, and we'll be kind of back in the vibe of it. Godard will get a little frustrated, but then something will happen that's good, and he'll be back into it. Belmondo's just along for the ride. Belmondo seems like the funnest hang ever. But I love Linklater's refusal to go to the extremes to manufacture biopic emotions. He says, that's not what it's like. I want to show you what it's like. Yeah, it's frustrating. Yeah, it's a slog. Yeah, you don't think you're going to get it. Yeah, you don't think it's coming to anything. Yeah, it seems like this was a mistake. But then there are other moments that are fun, where you do feel like you're getting it, where you do feel like you're finding something. Linklater understands that dynamic so well and depicts it here so perfectly. I give Nouvelle Vague 4 stars. I thought it was great. Check it out. It's on Netflix right now. And speaking of Netflix, oh, I hate Netflix so much, but I do love these movies that you finance. Every year come award season, Netflix just has a couple freaking bangers. And I wish for the life of me that they would get bigger theatrical releases. I fucking hate Netflix. You do need to go see the Nouvelle Vague and this next movie I'm going to talk about, Train Dreams, which is on Netflix right now. But goddamn, why Train Dreams not getting a massive theatrical release is a crime. It's a crime against cinema. And Ted Sarandos should be dragged before The Hague because of it. Train Dreams is directed by Clint Bentley, who co-wrote the screenplay with Greg Quidar, based on the 2011 novella by Dennis Johnson, author of a lot of great works, including Jesus' Son, which also has a great film adaptation with Billy Crudup. The DP on this was Adolfo Veloso, and the film stars Joel Edgerton, Felicity Jones, Clifton Collins Jr., Carrie Condon, and William H. Macy. And it's about essentially the complete life and death, or at least adult life and death, of a man who lived and worked in Idaho and the West from the 1880s to the 1960s. He works on the railroad, he chops down trees, he marries the love of his life, he has a kid, he experiences unimaginable tragedy, he thinks about his life, and he tries to find the meaning in it. Train Dreams is, quite simply, one of the most, if not the most beautiful movie you'll see this year. It is gorgeous and poignant. If you like Terrence Malick movies, you will feast on Train Dreams. Feast! And I usually don't like heavily narrated movies. This movie has a sort of has a narrator over a lot of it, as though the story is being told to you. Third person narrator. But it works here. And in fact, it's essential to the effect of the movie because it's not used as a crutch. It feels essential to the fabric of the movie because this movie is a sort of fable, a sort of story being told to you. It's the life of a working man who lived and died more or less in complete obscurity. It's that life turned into a myth. And the narration throughout works beautifully as a form of myth-making. And that's what's ultimately so beautiful about this movie, is that the life that you see on screen is a cinematic life. It is made beautiful. It is made massive. The shots are so gorgeous in the woods and the forest and the trees falling, getting chopped over, and the building of the railroads and the compositions. This is a beautiful, beautiful movie. And the life that it depicts is the majority of human lives that have been lived on this earth. The majority of human lives that have been lived on this earth from the beginning of time have been lived in obscurity. There's no record of them. The majority of lives have come and gone and left no discernible trace, at least not in the way that we normally think of in our sort of, in the human way that we think about how things would leave a trace. No ancestors, no, you didn't write a book, you didn't direct a movie, you didn't create anything. You didn't assassinate the president, you didn't enter the historical record. But this movie beautifully and poignantly argues that every life leaves a trace. Every life is part of something bigger. Every life is, and this is the important part, equally meaningful. Equally meaningful in the truest, deepest sense possible. It's such a beautiful movie. It'll make you sad, and it'll make you happy, and it'll make you think and reflect. And I had a great time watching it. I wish I would have seen it in a theater and not on frickin' tiny ass freaking tiny ass TV. But even under those circumstances, I really like Train Dreams. I'm giving it 4 stars. Joel Edgerton, amazing in it. William H. Macy in it is amazing in it. I haven't looked, but I have to imagine William H. Macy's getting like Best Supporting Actor consideration for this. He's a bit of a scene stealer in this one, people, but in a very Train Dreams way, a subtle scene stealer. Now let's talk about my favorite movie that I saw last week. Holy shit, what a trip. Sirāt. Do y'all know about Sirāt? Get on the Sirāt train, baby. Sirāt was directed by Oliver Lax and co-written by Lax and Santiago Filiol. And what is it about? Oh boy. Okay. Well, it starts at this unbelievable sort of Mad Maxy rave out in the Moroccan desert with these massive speakers and like neon light installations. But it's also not like Burning Man. This is like for the rave purists. It's like a, you know, it's made big by its like energy, but there's not a lot of people there. It's so far off the grid. It's kind of impossible to get to, which ends up being one of the major arcs of the movie, is how impossible these Moroccan desert raves are to get to. And there's a lot of ravers, and they're having fun, and they're tripping their balls off and dancing around. And then this older father and his younger son, you see them sort of moving through the crowd of ravers, and you're like, who are these two? They're out of place. And it turns out they're looking for, the man's looking for his daughter, the boy's sister, who was kind of a Euro party scene stir, but has gone missing or hasn't replied to stuff, is sort of out of touch. Has been out of touch for several months, to a point that the dad is alarmed. And he found out through social media or whatever that she was planning on being at this rave, and so he's come there to find her and make sure she's okay and just make contact with her. He doesn't find her at this rave, but some of the ravers, this band of ravers, who drive around in the most souped up RVs you've ever seen in your life. Speaking of Mad Max, these things would honestly do damage in Mad Max Fury Road. They are insanely souped up RVs that look like frickin' future tanks. And they say, well, you know what? There's this other rave way over there in the Moroccan desert. She might be at that one. You might have come to the wrong rave. So if you can keep up with us, essentially, and he's driving like a minivan. If you can keep up with us, then you can try, and maybe she'll be at this other rave. So then this unlikely band of travelers, adventurers, lost souls, what have you, make a trek across the Moroccan desert to find another rave. And the journey they go on is a trippy, visionary descent into hell that had me on the edge of my seat. I was, by the end of this movie, and it's not even like gory or like sort of violent, or I was watching this movie like this through my fingers because of how just sort of tense the movie is, how engaged I was in it. This is just a visionary, unique movie. It's so interesting, and it's so beautiful and haunting, and this like thumping EDM soundtrack, but it's like the echo of EDM. It's this like haunting, droning EDM as this caravan moves through the desert. And then there's this like sort of in the background, this sort of like almost like a military coup going on that sort of comes in and out. Very much like Tarkovsky's The Sacrifice, where you're kind of like you're following the journey of this small group of people, but then in the background you're like, is the world like ending though? Like, is World War III happening? I think maybe sort of in the background. And the title of the movie, Sirāt, as you're told in an opening description text on the screen. Again, not something I usually like, but here it was cool. because Sirāt refers to the Sirāt bridge, which is an Islamic belief about a bridge that all humans must cross on the day of resurrection to reach paradise. Described as a narrow bridge sharper than a sword and thinner than a hair, it is suspended over hell. And so this movie is about a lot of people chasing, the ravers are chasing their paradise, which is how high can we get? How far can we take the trip? This father is searching for his paradise, which would be reconciling with his daughter, knowing that she's safe, reconciling her with her brother. But that bridge is thin. That bridge is thin. And there's a lot of falling off it into hell in Sirāt. What a movie. Whew, what a movie. Sirāt. I give it 4.5 stars. I think it's a gem. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Movies Baby with 5 Ys. Next week on the show, a lot of interesting movies coming out this week. Zootopia 2. Chloe Zhao's Hamnet. All about the tragic backstory to the writing, the creation of Shakespeare's Hamlet. This one's getting big time Oscar buzz. The trailer looks devastating. I'm going to be a teary little baby. I'm going to be crying my eyes out at Hamnet. I hope. Eternity. I don't know if I'm going to see that. It's like a mashup of Defending Your Life and A Matter of Life and Death, but maybe not good. I don't know. Woman goes to the afterlife, has to choose whether she wants to spend the afterlife with deceased husband number 1 or deceased husband number 2. TBD. Knives Out 3, is that coming out on Netflix? Maybe I'll see that. And oh boy, I have this on my list. I don't know what the actual release date is out here. Have y'all seen the trailer for The Secret Agent? This movie with Wagner Moura. It's like a Brazilian sort of like crime movie. Did very well at Cannes. I think they said it was the most awarded movie at Cannes, because I think it got Best Actor and then something else. Have you seen this trailer for The Secret Agent? Looks fucking amazing. Honestly, the trailer for The Secret Agent and the trailer for Park Chan-wook's No Other Choice have made me, between just those two trailers, have made me so excited for the rest of this year. And I hope you are too, because we got a long road to travel before we put this year to rest, movie-wise and life-wise and world-wise. Who knows what's going to happen between now and the end of the year? But I do know I'll be going to the movies quite often. I hope you are too, because there's a lot of good stuff out there to see. Thank you for joining us. Please sign up for our Patreon, patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys. We'll have the next installment of our 1980s Weekend at Bergman tournament out on Patreon this week. We are determining the ultimate movie of the 1980s, and we got a lot of movies contending for that title. Join us over there on patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys, and join us every week on YouTube as well, Instagram. Follow us everywhere. We appreciate your support. I love doing this. I want to do it forever, baby, until my last train dream. And then it's off across the Sirāt Bridge, through the French New Wave. It all has sentimental value. And let's be honest, it was kind of wicked, but for good. That's life. Bye.